dictionary for this specific case.
Oh, yeah.
There's some exhibits, and then today, um, some of the globals that I put in are coming up, so I don't know why.
Hmm.
It's like, really? Uh, and then what I'm cross off so.
Okay, Anna, I see that I've been made the host again. It looks like we are on YouTube. I think we should be in pretty good shape. And Anna, as I think indicated to you yesterday, I'm optimistic we're not going to need to close the hearing today. But if you stay by your phone, just in case that changes, that'll be helpful. I'll call you or reach out to you somehow if it looks like that's going to be necessary.
Okay, John, I will be here.
Okay, are you staying on the call or?
No,
or
I'll leave, but
Okay,
I'll be here.
yeah, that sounds
If you
good.
need to
If I
reach.
need anything, I'll just let you know.
Yes, thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hate using this extra computer. I get all the ads sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't been on it in a while.
Yeah, I get it. I'm going to let a couple of people in. I normally do it all at once, but I asked everybody to be here at about 10 till so we could do a mic check. So I'm going to go ahead and admit the ones who are here.
Makes sense.
Well, good morning, everybody. We're early. I'm not going to get started until 9, obviously, but if anybody wants to do a mic check, you're welcome to do so now.
Good morning, Mr. Hearing Examiner. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. Thanks.
Thank
Good morning,
you.
Mr. Hearing Examiner. Keith
Morning,
Mears,
Mr. Muir.
just want to make sure. Thank you.
Yep, I can hear you. And Mr. Muir, I did see Mr. O'Rourke try to join earlier. I was waiting until 8:50 to let everybody in, but
Okay. I'll let him know. Thank you, sir.
Reminds me, turn off the phone.
oh yes, I need to do the same thing. Morning, Mr. Rossi.
Good morning, Mr. Greencamp.
Okay. I think the only one who has not done a mic check, Mr. Avila. If you want to check your microphone, now's a good time.
Yes, can you hear me? This is
Yes. Yes, good morning. Am I pronouncing your last name correctly?
yes.
Okay,
That's-
perfect. All right. Well, we're not going to get started until 9, so everybody's got a few minutes. If you want to turn off your video, that's fine. I just appreciate you being on and being ready to go.
Mhm.
Okay, good morning. I think we have everybody with us. Ms. Gonzalez, before we go on the record, I'm just going to check with the parties and see if there's anything we need to address off the record. Let's see. Let's see, Mr. Muir, Mr. O'Rourke, Mr. Rossi, you're all with us. Any items we should address before we go on the record this morning?
Mr. Hearing Examiner.
Mr. O'Rourke, I think we're having a bit of echo on your end.
Yeah, and I'm muted. I'm gonna.
Are you potentially in the same room as Mr. Avila? That may be the problem.
I am. Okay, is that
There you
better?
go. That's much better. Yes.
Okay, apology.
No, it's fine. That's why we join early.
Yes, two things. I don't know whether they need to go on the record or not. Wanted to flag number one, that there has been one public filing by the president of Navajo Nation in support of the transaction. And then the second thing, just as a housekeeping matter, after at the beginning of the Avila examination, I was also planning to get in exhibits in addition to the testimony, which I'm hoping is appropriate.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think admitting exhibits on direct, I think, is clearly permitted under the rules. I don't see any issues there. And yes, I did see that filing from the president of Navajo Nation. I do intend to, we'll address that a little bit later.
That's all I had.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Rossi, anything preliminarily before we go on the record?
No, sir. Just to cover, we did discuss the exhibits he'll be admitting. I don't have any objection, but of course I'll say that at the time.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you. All right. Well, with that, I show that it's 9:01. Ms. Gonzalez, if you're ready, we'll go ahead and go on the record. So good morning. The time is 9:01. We are now on the record. This matter before the New Mexico Public Regulation Commission will please come to order. This is the time and place set for the public hearing in the matter of the petition of Tracfone Wireless, now known as Verizon Value, to expand its eligible telecommunications carrier service area to include tribal lands and certain non-tribal lands in New Mexico. This case has been docketed as case number 24-00244-UT. My name is John Kreinkamp. I'm the hearing examiner with the PRC, who will be presiding over this matter today and ultimately providing the commission a recommended decision. This hearing today is being transcribed by a court reporter. For the sake of the record, I'd like to start with entries of appearance from the parties, starting with Verizon Value.
Hi, good morning, Mr. Hearing Examiner Keith Muir and Delaney O'Rourke for Verizon Value, Inc.
Okay, good morning. And Telecommunications Bureau staff.
Good morning, Nicholas Rossi for PRC Telecommunications Bureau. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so as far as preliminary items are concerned this morning, I have just a few. We discussed the mechanics of the hearing today at our pre-hearing conference last Friday. But to reiterate, I will not be imposing time limits today. I don't think that that's necessary given that we have only two witnesses. We're going to start obviously with petitioner's witness, and then we'll take staff's witness. My expectation is that we will clearly finish today, if not this morning. I think the only sort of item that I maybe should have addressed on Friday, mechanically speaking, we have two counsel for the petitioner this morning, two attorneys for petitioner. So when I guess for each witness, we'll have just one of you do the direct examination, cross-examination, any objections, things of that nature. And you can just tell me that when we get to each witness. Next up, petitioner filed supplemental testimony on Friday. We talked about this at the pre-hearing on Friday, and as petitioner sort of previewed for us on Friday, there are a handful of sections of that testimony that have been marked as confidential, and petitioner has filed a confidentiality request. I'm not prepared today to rule on that. Staff, I think, will file a written response and whatnot, so we can address that down the line. But I think from a mechanical perspective, if either party ends up feeling inclined to ask questions about that confidential material itself, or if either of the witnesses want to give an answer, again, that references that specific confidential material, what I want you to do is notify me first before doing that. And then what we'll do is we'll close the hearing. That'll mean that I'll need to get my staff on to shut off the Zoom link and then, I'm sorry, not the Zoom link, the YouTube link. And then we'll have to turn the YouTube link back on when we're done discussing the confidential material. So again, please do give me a heads up before you do that. That extends obviously to Mr. Tolleson, Mr. Avila. If you intend to speak to that confidential material itself, again, please notify me in advance so that we can maintain that confidentiality. As far as the previous confidentiality request is concerned, there's two of these. This is the one that was filed previously. I think what I want to do is I want to handle that at the end of the hearing today after we see how the evidentiary portion of the hearing unfolds, because I think that may bear on where we go with that. Any concerns or questions about any of those preliminary items that I've just outlined? Okay, seeing none. Let's see, are there any preliminary matters or questions from the parties that we should address on the record before we start the evidentiary portion of the hearing?
From Verizon Value.
Okay, and seeing none, with that, let's see, petitioner, I don't know if this is Mr. Muir or Mr. O'Rourke, but you can call your first witness, first and only witness.
Mr. Hearing Examiner, Verizon Value calls David Avila as a witness.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Gonzalez, if you would please swear in the witness.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. O'Rourke.
Mr. Avila, please state for the record your full name, business address, and position.
Yes, my name is David Avila, Avila. I am the Director of Business Strategy for Verizon Value, and we are located in Miami, 9700 Miami. I can look up the address for the exact address.
Mr. Avila, do you have with you your direct testimony, which has been marked as Exhibit 1, your rebuttal testimony, which has been marked as Exhibit 2, and your supplemental testimony, which has been marked as Exhibit 11?
Yes, I do.
Were each of those documents prepared by you or under your immediate supervision?
Yes.
Do you have any corrections to any of those documents?
There are some corrections.
Will you please go through those?
Sure. The first two are in the direct testimony, September 3rd, 2024, page 2. And the change here is the change of title, of position, should reflect Director, Business Strategy, both on question 1 and question 2.
Any other changes to your direct?
No changes.
Can I direct your attention to page 19 of your direct?
Yes.
You see where you state that in response to question 45, that Verizon Value has more than 15,000 lifeline customers.
Yes, at that time when this was being prepared, that was the correct number. The number is lower as of today. It's 10,000.
Okay, do you have any other changes to any of your pieces of testimony?
That's what I have here.
Let me take you to your supplemental, please. At page 3, when you refer to 10,000 lifeline customers.
I'm sorry, Mr. O'Rourke, what exhibit are we on? Is this Exhibit 2?
This is Exhibit 11, supplemental.
Oh, Exhibit 11. Okay. Thank you.
This is May 2nd?
Yes,
Okay. And what page? 11?
page 3,
Okay.
your response to question 5, where you say that we had more than 10,000 customers.
This is at the time of preparing, this is the correct number.
Okay. With those corrections, if I were to ask you today under oath the same questions as appear in your direct rebuttal and supplemental testimonies, would your answers be the same?
Yes.
Mr. Hearing Examiner, we move the admission of exhibits 1, 2, and 11.
Thank you. And Mr. O'Rourke, just to clarify, from what I just took away there, it sounds like the only real changes are to exhibit 1. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Mr. Rossi, any objection to the admission of Verizon Value Exhibit 1, 2, or 11?
No objection. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I'll go ahead and admit Verizon Value, aka Tracfone, exhibits 1, 2, and 11 into evidence.
Mr. Hearing Examiner, we're prepared to go through exhibits 3 through 10 at this time, although I understand there may not be any objection. And if appropriate, perhaps we could do that by stipulation.
Mr. Rossi?
I think it's probably, well, as we've had this discussion during prior hearings, I think it's probably appropriate to lay the foundation and then admit them.
Okay. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So what I would then suggest, Mr. O'Rourke, if you just go through each exhibit, lay foundation, and then at the end of all of those, then move them all into evidence at one time, and then we'll turn to Mr. Rossi and see if he has any objections to any of them.
Thank you, Mr. Hearing Examiner. Mr. Avila, do you have the rest of the exhibits in front of you?
Yes.
Let me direct your attention to exhibit 3, the Lifeline report. Is that the Lifeline report that you referenced in your direct testimony at page 10 in response to question 23?
Yes, it is.
And then going to exhibit 4, the Lifeline claims matrix.
The Lifeline, I'm sorry, please repeat that.
The Lifeline claims, CLAIMS matrix. Is that the matrix that you reference in your direct testimony at page 10 in response to question 23?
Yes.
Then referring you to exhibit 5, the JD Power news release. Is that the news release that you reference in your direct testimony at page 4 in response to question 6?
Yes.
And then exhibit 6, the Root Metrics news release. Is that the document that you reference in your direct testimony at page 4 in response to question 6?
Yes.
Then moving to exhibit 7, the Consumer Code news release. Is that the exhibit that you reference in your direct testimony at page 20 in response to question 47?
Yes.
Moving to exhibit 8, the ETC proposed service area. Is that the document that Verizon Value provided in response to the April 16th, 2025 bench request order item number 1?
Yes.
And does that accurately depict the proposed ETC service area?
Yes.
Then moving to exhibit 9, SafeLink terms and conditions. Is this a document that that Verizon Value provided in response to the April 16th, 2025 bench request order item 2?
Yes.
And does that document accurately reflect SafeLink's terms and conditions?
Yes.
And then finally, exhibit 10, the list of ETC designations. Is this the most current version of the matrix provided in response to the August 9th, 2024 bench request order item 4?
Yes.
And is this information accurate to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes.
Verizon Value moves the admission of exhibits 3 through 10.
Mr. Rossi, any objection to the admission of Verizon Value exhibits 3 through 10?
No objection. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. With that, Verizon Value exhibits 3 through 10 are admitted into the record.
The witness is available for cross-examination.
Thank you, Mr. O'Rourke. Mr. Rossi, any questions for Mr. Avila?
I do not, as previously discussed throughout this case, staff has had many opportunities to speak with petitioner and has all of his questions answered at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, good morning, Mr. Avila.
Good morning.
Let me see. I'm just going through your testimony here and seeing where I want to start. I guess let me ask you just about the correction that was made to the major substantive correction that was made to Exhibit 1. This is on page 19. This is your direct testimony. The change from in your testimony at that time, when your direct testimony was filed, there were 15,000 Lifeline customers in New Mexico, and now the number is 10,000. Can you explain, I guess, the reason for the drop? It seems like a significant number, and I'm just curious, is there a simple answer as far as what caused that?
Sure. In New Mexico, like in many of our ETC states, we were taking advantage of the ACP program, the Affordable Connectivity Program, which was a program made available to low-income consumers as a result of the pandemic. And in this program, the consumers that were eligible would receive $30 of monthly recurring benefit. And so when this program was sunsetted back in June of 2024, we reverted back to our federal Lifeline program, which is a program that provides $9.25 of subsidy. So the value that you give to consumers is much less. And in addition to that, consumers were no longer eligible for a free phone, which was part of the ACP program. And so that offer was significantly reduced, which caused a lot of consumers to drop because the $9.25 was not sufficient for service offerings. And so that's why we've seen our numbers drop.
Okay, that's helpful. And did you see the same numbers drop, I guess, across the country if this was a national program that was sunsetted in June of 2024?
Yes. Yes.
No, please go ahead. I'm curious
No,
about that.
the only exception to that would be in the state of California, where we offer a free phone. And so, and because that state provides additional Lifeline support, an additional $19, you're able to provide consumers with a higher value offering coupled with a free phone. So that enabled the program to be successful and see our numbers grow. So that was the only exception that we've seen. The other area that was not impacted is tribal lands across the country, because we continue offering a free phone to eligible consumers. And so that offering is much more robust.
Okay. So let me ask you a couple other questions about your direct testimony. One of the questions I had, and this was mentioned, I think, either right before we went on the record or right after, but at the bottom of page 16 of your direct testimony, this is Verizon Value Exhibit 1. You're asked about tribal outreach efforts. And I did see on Friday that the president of Navajo Nation had submitted a letter in support of Tracfone's petition. And I thought that was very interesting and potentially significant. Do you know, was that the result of tribal outreach efforts that you all have engaged in, or had you reached out to him? I'm just curious if you're aware of what may have sort of precipitated the submission of that letter.
Yes, the Verizon regulatory team in the Western region has a representative that works with tribal lands, and she had been working the relationship with the Navajo Nations for a period of time. And so in order to be able to serve the entire nation, they have been working on that relationship for a period of time. And so as part of this, the request was put in to see if they could submit a letter to support the tribal lands in New Mexico to be able to serve the nation better.
Okay. Have you been engaged in tribal outreach efforts in connection to your petition with other tribes in New Mexico? So for instance, the Pueblos, have you reached out to any of them? Do you know?
No, not at the moment.
Okay. And I guess while we're on the subject of Navajo Nation, obviously Navajo Nation spans, I think, 3 states, not Colorado, but the rest of the 4 corner states, as I recall. And I do see that you are designated as an ETC, essentially in all 3 of those states where the Navajo Nation is. Looks like you have both. This is in Exhibit 10.
Yes.
Okay. '17. So again, this is Exhibit 1. You're asked this question about providing service throughout the expanded service area. So essentially the proposed service area that you've proposed through this petition.
The request prior to this conversation with the local tribe, it was agreed to that we would, since they have their own local exchange network, we would not be competing with them. So we decided to exclude ourselves from those 2 zip codes.
Okay, and that's the Mescalero Apache then? That's what you're referring to?
Say that again?
I believe that's the Mescalero Apache
Yes,
reservation?
yes, correct.
Okay. And that's that would not be included in your proposed service area.
Correct.
Okay. So if and when you are granted this expanded service area that again would exclude that, you would provide service in all of that designated service territory.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. At the top of page 5 of your direct testimony, you're asked this question about the leadership change at Tracfone, Verizon Value, after Verizon acquired the company in 2021. And you say that there was essentially a complete turnover of the senior executive team. And then you say before the acquisition, Tracfone's management was organized by company brand, but since then management has been arranged along functional lines. Can you explain to me what you meant by that?
Yes, in order to serve customers better, the approach taken is that you look at the segment, the prepaid segment, and that is why the name change of Verizon Value. And then as you look at within that segment, you segment the market based on customer needs and their attributes, and then you create the brand to serve that segment more effectively. And so that's how you have the family of brands serving the entire spectrum of the prepaid market, making sure that each segment is we address the specific needs of those segments. So rather than having one brand covering the entire segment, like you kind of see today, what Verizon Value does is looks at the market and then focuses on the need, and that brand is there to support that user.
Okay. Now let me ask you about this is in, I guess, Exhibit 11. This is in your supplemental testimony just filed on Friday. This is on page 4. And you give this answer to question 7. And this is not, I believe, marked as confidential material. Essentially, you say that the Tracfone team has been providing Lifeline service for 17 years. And the only reason that answer stands out to me is just because you talked about how there was a complete turnover at the executive level when Verizon acquired the company. So given that there was that turnover, and then here you're talking about sort of the Tracfone team's experience for 17 years, that seems like just an area where I'd like a little bit of clarification. Can you help me sort of explain that 17 years of experience given, I guess, the changes that happened when you were acquired by Verizon?
Sure. So prior to the acquisition of Tracfone, Tracfone also was a family of different brands. It had at that time 7 or 8 brands, wireless brands under the Tracfone brand. SafeLink Wireless was one of those brands, and that brand was focused on the low income segment that would leverage the Lifeline benefit for their service. And so SafeLink started its operations back in 2008, right after Hurricane Katrina, to serve those that were affected. And that really was the birth of SafeLink, and it obtained the forbearance with the FCC to continue expanding its operations as soon as it received ETC designation for that state. So since 2008, that is when the SafeLink brand has been operating. Fast forward to the Verizon acquisition. When they acquired Tracfone, they acquired all of those brands. So we continue operating under the Verizon value as a brand focused on, Lifeline consumers. And so the benefit now is that we leverage the scale of Verizon in its operations and compliance to even make our service more attractive to the low-income consumers.
Okay.
Does that help?
It does. And I guess a follow-up question would be, I guess just sticking to, I guess the executive management of Verizon Value. You provided, I think it's in Exhibit 1, you provided, I think, an organizational chart, I guess, of the management of Verizon Value. You said there was complete turnover again when the company was acquired by Verizon. Can you give me a better sense of, I guess, the backgrounds of most of your executives, I guess, including yourself? Are most of you, did you come from Verizon Value or Tracfone originally, and then you were sort of promoted, or were you from Verizon or from other places? If you could give me a sense of, I guess, the experience of the leadership team at Verizon Value.
Yeah. So one of the benefits, just to kind of give you context, within the SafeLink brand that has been in operation since 2008, many of the leaders within that brand still continue operating that brand and supporting, the low-income segment. So many of those did not turn over. So the turnover was more at the executive level. And what we saw, and which was a benefit, those that came in were more experienced in the prepaid space. And so there were executives from other prepaid organizations. So for example, David Kim, who oversees our organization, has been an expert in the prepaid space for many years, had worked for companies like T-Mobile and Sprint. And so, that leadership understands the competition of the prepaid space and what does it take to be successful. So what we have seen with this management change is more support to help us within our brand to help those consumers. Now, the good news is that under that leadership, and David Kim had worked for Sprint, and I recall working with him back at Assurance Wireless, which is another large wireless provider. So that support carried over here. So it actually has really helped us to continue our efforts to continue growing. So the Lifeline benefits now is being made available to the other Verizon Value brands, which is a benefit to consumers because now there's choice and they can decide how they want to use their Lifeline benefits. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of context. It's, the leadership much more focused on prepaid, and the the group that focuses on affordability, Lifeline, really has remained intact during these changes. So we continue consistency in providing the support to that low-income segment, now to a broader base.
Okay. Let me ask you, one of the items, frankly, that came up in staff's supplemental testimony, I guess this would be Exhibit 2, is essentially the track record of Verizon value nationally and statewide. I think you provided a pretty clear answer in your own supplemental testimony about your record in New Mexico. Can you talk a little bit about your experience nationally and I guess the procedures you have in place to ensure quality service to your customers?
Sure. So prior to the Verizon acquisition, Tracfone had probably industry-leading best practices to ensure compliance, both in the area of enrollment and also in the claims process. And so we have always adhered to the FCC principles and maintained, good working relationships with state level USAC to make sure that, we're offering the best service to our consumers. With the acquisition of Verizon, it has actually even strengthened a lot of the efforts that we're doing, because now our compliance efforts fall under the Verizon compliance organization, a much larger, much more resources available. So we have been able to continue that and really take it to the next level, if you want to call it that way, where we are now under Verizon with their compliance and also their operational support that is also really helping us, because now we're able to bring more value to consumers on the consumer side too. So with the change, we continue that legacy of having, aiming to be the gold standard in the industry amongst other providers.
Okay. And you provided, as we've already discussed, a list of all the other ETC designations that you have across the country. I don't remember if the exact number was 46 states or 47 states, whatever it was. I think that's in testimony somewhere. Obviously, it's the overwhelming majority of states across the country, and that includes, in a lot of states, you have both tribal and non-tribal lifelines. I guess my question to you would be, you have all of these ETC designations. Has Verizon Value ever had a ETC designation revoked or suspended? Any sort of history like that?
No.
Okay. Let's see. One of the questions, and you address this in your direct testimony, this is on page 21, so Exhibit 1. One of the questions that the commission typically looks to when it grants or when it considers ETC designation, and whether that's in the public interest, is the unique advantages of the company's service offering. You talk a little bit about this, again, on page 21 of your testimony. Can you sort of give me a crystallized version or a restatement, essentially, of what you see as the unique advantages of Verizon Value's service offerings in the marketplace?
Sure. So focusing on SafeLink, our primary lifeline offering, we provide 40 gigabytes of data with unlimited minutes and texting to qualified tribal residents. So that's what we offer, nationally in tribal lands. So we would continue that in New Mexico. The advantage now with Verizon Value is that the other brands, which include Total Wireless, Simple Mobile, Straight Talk, Tracfone Wireless, and Walmart Family Mobile, are now choices that qualified tribal participants can go to these retailers and apply for service and get a discount, a $35 discount off of the retail plan that they choose. So now consumers have more choice, more options with the Verizon Value umbrella. And then underneath that, you have the Verizon network supporting all of those brands. So you have a consistent level of service, and you are able to provide not only good coverage, but we will be providing a free phone to those consumers that will enable that consumer to take advantage of some of the 5G capabilities. So it is, some of our competitors may provide a very low-cost refurbished device. We aim to provide a top quality device to give them access to 4G and 5G services. And so they can use that for with the service offering that we provide them with unlimited minutes, texting, and 40 gigabytes of data.
And how does that 40 gigabytes of data with unlimited minutes and texting, how does that compare to your potential competitors in this expanded service area?
Well, we have taken a look at the current competitors in New Mexico Tribal, and what we've seen is that their offerings are less than 10 gigabytes of data in the marketplace. So we aim to provide a lot more for those consumers.
Okay. Let me ask you, at the bottom of page 22 of your direct testimony, again, Exhibit 1, you're asked the question, will Tracfone offer service throughout the expanded ETC service area within a reasonable time frame or time frame required by state or federal law? That obviously is a requirement for ETC's designation. And you say, yes, we will be able to do that as soon as the company implements certain procedures and internal systems. Without going into a terrible amount of detail there, can you describe what types of procedures and systems you're talking about and how long that's expected to take?
Sure. So the good news here is that since we're offering service in non-tribal New Mexico, right, a lot of the foundational processes and steps to activate a Lifeline customer is already in place, right? So, and since we also provide tribal in other states, so specifically in New Mexico, what it is augmenting our processes and enrollment systems and making sure that the customer activation portals now support this new expanded area. So the infrastructure is in place. It's only a matter of activating it for the new expanded area that would allow us to get into market in a fairly, 60 to 90 days, if that, to be able to serve those customers. So we would leverage what's in place today and just expand it to be able to get into market and be able to serve this segment quickly. Does that help?
Yes, it does. I think at this point you've answered most of my questions. Let me ask you just a couple of questions about the exhibits, the supporting exhibits beyond your testimony that was admitted. I guess my first question, let's take a look at, I think it's Exhibit 5. This is the JD Power Award for wireless network quality. I have heard about this award, frankly, since long before I was at the PRC, but I'm not really sure that I understand what it is and the significance of it. Can you explain that to me?
Sure. It's a award that many providers desire to achieve, right? Because it shows a level of excellence and a dedication to the customer, right? Ensuring that customers have the best network experience. So in order for this award to be given out, a lot of research goes in from JD Power, looking at customer complaints, looking at network coverage. Really, there's a checklist of a lot of detail to kind of ensure a reliable, top quality network. In order for them to award this, they have to complete a series of checklists to ensure that network provider is adhering to that. And so when they announce the winners, it is a lot of satisfaction to the companies, because it just shows that everything that they've done to provide the optimal customer experience. And at Verizon, the network is of great pride, right, to kind of ensure that they have the best network. So when they go through this and it's awarded, it's great satisfaction to the provider when this takes place.
Okay. And this particular exhibit says that you've now won this, the Verizon, I should say, has won this for the 32nd time in a row. How many times a year is this offered? Is this 32 years, or is this offered maybe quarterly? How often is this award handed out? In other words, how long of a time span are we talking about?
Yeah, I can confirm this for you, but it's annual when they publish this. But let me just confirm that for you, just to make sure that I have it correct. But it's an annual award that's provided.
Okay, thank you.
And I should add that in order to qualify for that, you don't automatically, you go through the same detailed checklist to making sure that you are maintaining, because outside of Verizon, there have been companies that have won this but don't win it again because they failed to achieve some of the checkpoints. So the fact that it's consistent demonstrates that Verizon has consistently maintained their network to be the top performing.
Okay. This particular exhibit is dated January 22nd, 2024. Is it now the 33rd time in a row? Did Verizon win it again, or do you have any information about that? I'm assuming that it's been handed out again.
I have not confirmed that. I know that we would expect to, but again, it has to go through this. So I don't think that they've completed that. But let me have that as a follow-up to kind of just confirm,
Okay.
when the next award will be issued.
Okay, thank you. And then I guess my last question for you, I wanted to ask you about Exhibit 4. This is the labeled as the Lifeline Claims matrix. Can you walk me through this particular matrix, what information is contained, and how I should read it?
Yeah, so this is a public document that you can get from the USAC website, and it provides details about the claims, and it allows you to kind of see where your claims are in various jurisdictions.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I'm just going through and making sure I've asked all of my questions here. Mr. Avila, I believe that's all the questions I have for you this morning, sir. Thank you very much for your testimony. I've appreciated it.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
And let's see, Mr. O'Rourke, any questions on redirect, sir?
I have just a little bit of redirect, Mr. Hearing
Absolutely.
Examiner.
Please go ahead.
Mr. Avila, the hearing examiner asked you about the decrease in the number of Lifeline customers, and I believe you discussed the impact of the ACP going away. To be clear, when the ACP was in place, I believe you said that was a $30 benefit.
Yes, in addition to the Lifeline benefit, so it made $39.25.
And when the ACP went away, so the benefit went from $39.25 back to $9.25, how did that affect the SafeLink service offering?
Yeah, so the SafeLink service often dropped from providing consumers unlimited minutes, texting, and 35 gigabytes of data down to unlimited minutes, unlimited texting, and 10 gigabytes of data. And it removed the option of a free phone as well.
And I believe you said that with Tribal Lifeline, you get 40 megabytes of data with SafeLink. Is that right?
That's correct.
Can you give us a sense of what you can do with 40 gigabytes of data?
40 is a number that allows consumers that, for example, you could do up to 20, 25 hours of Zoom calling, so for those that want to use that data for educational purposes and want to join Zoom calls, about 20 to 30 hours of that. You could do streaming if you need to watch classes in streaming services. You can have about 20 hours of high quality zooming for content.
And one last thing I want to clear up. The hearing examiner asked you some questions about the 2 zip codes where we said we didn't provide service, and you referred to the Mescalero tribe. Can you please go to Exhibit 2 and see you have some paper spread out before you? So take a moment to get there, please.
Exhibit 2?
Yes, and turn to page 2. And you see in response to question 3, where you talk about a couple of updates, and the first one was that we're not seeking to include the Mescalero Apache reservation, which is encompassed by zip code 88340, a single zip code. Okay, then let's go back to your direct testimony, Exhibit 1 at page 17. Okay, and let me direct you to question 39, where you're asked, will Tracfone provide service throughout its expanded service area? And you say yes, with the exception of 2 zip codes. So does that refresh your memory that we're not talking about the Mescalero tribal area here?
That's correct. That's correct. And I should stand corrected on that. So when we looked at the area, these zip codes, we don't have network coverage. And so that's why we're removing them, because of network coverage.
And that means that Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mo have coverage in those 2 zip codes, so that we can't provide it over Verizon network and we can't resell.
Correct.
And do you recall roughly how many zip codes New Mexico has?
If I recall, yeah.
More than 400.
Yes.
That's all the direct I have, Mr. Hearing Examiner. I wanted to clear up that last point, because you kind of stopped your line of questioning there, and I wanted to make sure we had that correct on the record.
No, I appreciate that, Mr. O'Rourke. Now I have questions about that again, so I appreciate you clarifying that. Hello again, Mr. Avila. Just a couple of follow-up questions, I guess, about those zip codes. Can you tell me what those zip codes are? Those 2 zip codes where you will not be providing service?
Yes, they're included in the in my testimony. And
can you direct me to a page number?
yes, so that would be direct testimony, page 17. It's the answer to question 39. So the zip code's not covered. Let's see.
you know, I don't actually see it in there. I mean, I can obviously pull up that recommended decision, because it's a recommended decision. It's not, I mean, it doesn't need to be admitted into evidence. It's law essentially. But let me direct you, I guess, then to Tracfone Exhibit 8. This is the map of the service territory. I had asked, I think, Tracfone to provide me a map um, of the proposed expanded service area, which, as it's shown here, includes the entire state except for that one zip code that has the Mescalero Apache Reservation. Can you tell me where here those two zip codes are?
You know, I need to confirm that for you, sir, so I don't have those zip codes here, or I don't recall from the top of my head. I know we
Okay.
were discussing this prior to this, and I knew that we had those two zip codes. I just don't recall right now where I can draw you for that.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. I am going to want those zip codes. I mean, I suppose I could just issue that as a bench request, and that would be a fairly normal procedure in these hearings. Or we could take a break and I could recall you after you've had a chance to look that up, and we could just take care of it this morning. Let me ask you, is there a reason why, if you know right now that you're not going to be able to provide service in those zip codes, can you tell me why you're asking for ETC designation in those zip codes?
I need to confirm that, sir, so.
Okay.
Yeah,
Let me see. So Mr. Rossi, Mr. O'Rourke, let me pose this to you too, or I suppose Mr. Muir. It's 9:50. Normally I end up taking a recess at 10:15. We could take a slightly earlier recess before we take up Mr. Tolson's testimony, and then we could begin back with Mr. Avila if 10 minutes is enough time to look that up and give me the answers I need. Or alternatively, we could start with Mr. Tolson and then we could recall Mr. Avila later. Do you have a preference between those two options?
Mr. Hearing Examiner for Verizon Value, I think, and I defer to Mr. O'Rourke, but I think taking a break now might be more helpful to clear that up on the record so that we don't have to come back to it.
Mr. Hearing
Okay.
Examiner, I would propose this. Let's see if we can get it during the break. And if not, perhaps we could go to Mr. Tolleson and we'll keep looking for it and see if we have it by the time he's done.
Okay, yeah, let's do that. I prefer that because if you are able to give me an answer now, that may impact the questions I ask Mr. Tolleson. So, yeah, so let's go ahead and Ms. Gonzalez, we'll go ahead and take a recess now for about 10 minutes. We'll come back at about 5 after, and we'll finish up hopefully with Mr. Avila. If the answers aren't available then we'll, discuss next steps. So. And with that, we'll be on brief recess for about 10 minutes. We'll come back at about 10:05. Thank you all.
thank you.
Okay, I have 10:06. For some reason, I'm not seeing Mr. Avila.
Yeah, he just lost power, but he is in the room with me and he can hear you, Mr. Hearing Examiner. Oops. Let's see. Sorry, I wasn't on camera, but I should be shortly. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can't see you. Um,
Yeah. I'm not sure why my video is not. Hopefully it will shortly.
well, let's see. Is the power out? Are we expecting to get that back?
Yes, sir. Mr. Avila is rebooting as we speak. And Mr. Hearing Examiner, if you can forgive me for being off video for a moment or two, I can offer a couple of thoughts on the zip code issue.
Sure, go ahead.
We are still checking, Mr. Avila checked with a colleague. There appear to be two areas in New Mexico that actually are not assigned to zip codes. Apparently, they're so rural and mountainous that they're not inhabited, and that's why they would have no phone service. We need to confirm that. And if that's the case, then perhaps the testimony was slightly inaccurate because we referred to zip codes as opposed to areas without them. But so we will continue to track that down, and if we can, by the end of the hearing, we'll confirm that that's in fact what we're talking about. Our thinking is, given that New Mexico has well more than 400 zip codes, it would be a shame to get the expanded ETC certification that covered all but say those two, and then somehow or another people move there, there's coverage there, but the only way we could provide lifeline service would be to go through this proceeding all over again. Given that we cover virtually the entire state, we're hopeful that that wouldn't be necessary.
Okay. Well, I mean, I guess that makes sense. I mean, my only question is just the legal standards and the requirement to offer service throughout the service territory and where that leaves me um, as the hearing examiner. But I'm fine for right now. If we want to, if you want to keep looking into that, if we're able to recall Mr. Avila later to continue that particular discussion, if he's not available, then I can go the bench request route and get clarification that way. Either way is fine, I suppose. Mr. Rossi, any feelings on this?
I'd be fine with a 5-minute break to give them a chance to get the computer booted. And then maybe we can answer this with any further questions. Either that or we can move on to Mr. Tollison. That's
Okay.
fine as well.
Yeah, Mr. O'Rourke, Mr. Muir, let's give you guys another 5 minutes. We'll come back at a quarter after, and hopefully by then you're back online. Just keep us posted.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner.
Okay, we'll be back in 5 minutes. Thanks.
Quick mic check. Can everyone hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we've got one computer operating, so that's good.
Okay. And we're working on Mr. Avila.
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. Sounds good. Appreciate it. And Ms. Gonzalez, thank you for your patience. I appreciate it.
It's no problem.
Google Maps. It's literally. It looks like we are back.
Mr. Avila, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Sometimes you prepare for everything except a dead battery. So
Yeah.
my apologies.
No, it happens.
Sorry for everyone, for the delay, unexpected delay. Sorry about that.
No, I appreciate you getting back with us. Looks like we have everyone. Mr. Rossi, Mr. O'Rourke, we ready to get back on the record?
Yes, sir.
All right. And Ms. Gonzalez, same question to you.
Yes.
Okay, sounds good. Well, the time is now 10:14. We're back on the record. And we have Mr. Avila back with us. Mr. O'Rourke, where do we stand on answering these questions? Are we able to, is Mr. Avila prepared to answer, or do we need to go ahead and start with Mr. Tollison and come back? What do we want to do?
I would suggest that we start with Mr. Tollison and come back. I don't think we have a definitive answer. And we may not by the time we're done with Mr. Tollison, but at least we can report back at that point.
Okay. Mr. Rossi, any objection to taking your witness and then potentially recalling Mr. Avila?
No objection to that.
Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and do that. Mr. Rossi, you can go ahead and call your first and only witness.
Thank you. Staff will call Brady Tollison.
Thank you. And Ms. Gonzalez, if you'll please swear in the witness.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Rossi.
Thank you. Good morning, sir. Can you please state your name for the record?
Sure. My name is Brady Tollison, and I am a public utilities economist with the Telecommunications Bureau.
As part of your duties, did you review this petition?
Yes,
And did you prepare testimony for this proceeding?
I did.
Do you have a copy of Staff Exhibit number 1, direct testimony of Brady Tollison?
I do.
Was this prepared by you?
It was.
And is this exhibit your sworn testimony in this matter?
Yes, it is.
If I asked you the same questions today, would your answers be the same?
Yes.
And are your answers true and accurate to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
And let's move on to Staff Exhibit number 2. Did you prepare this exhibit as well?
Yes, I did.
And was this prepared by you? Oh, sorry,
Yes.
I guess that's the same question. Is this also your sworn testimony in this matter?
It is.
If I asked you the same questions today, would your answers be the same?
Yes.
And are your answers true and accurate to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Staff will move to admit Staff Exhibit number 1 as well as Staff Exhibit number 2.
Thank you, Mr. Rossi. Let me just ask preliminarily, Mr. O'Rourke, Mr. Muir, who's the attorney for Verizon Value who'll be handling Mr. Tolleson?
I think he's on mute, Mr. Hearing Examiner, but Mr. O'Rourke will be handling the cross as well.
Correct.
Okay, perfect. In that case, Mr. O'Rourke, any objection to the admission of Staff Exhibit 1 or Staff Exhibit 2?
Objection.
Okay. Hearing no objection from Verizon Value, Staff Exhibit 1 and Staff Exhibit 2 are hereby admitted into the record.
At this time, I pass the witness. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. O'Rourke, any questions for Mr. Tolleson?
Just a few.
Go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Tolleson. I'm D. O'Rourke. I represent Verizon Value.
Good morning.
And if I can ask you to take a look at your supplemental testimony, which is Staff Exhibit 2, and go to page 8, please.
Page 8 of Exhibit 2. Yes, sir, I am there.
At line 1, you say that staff does not yet hold the opinion that the petitioner has fully satisfied all legal requirements for ETC designation. Does staff now hold the opinion that Verizon Value has satisfied all legal requirements for ETC designation?
Yes, given staff's chance to review responses to bench request and informal conversations we've had, staff is fully satisfied with all of the legal requirements for ETC designation at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Tolleson. No further questions.
Thank you, Mr. O'Rourke. Good morning, Mr. Tolleson.
Good morning.
Let me pick up right where you just left off there. The answer that you provided to Mr. O'Rourke about satisfying all the requirements for ETC designation said, given staff's chance to review responses to bench requests and informal conversations we've had. Can you tell me a little bit about that informal conversations, what you're referring to there?
Sure. Yeah, we had informal discussions just about some clarification about what I was looking for as it pertained to the SafeLink brand. I just wanted a better idea of some of the, operations of the provider. Being that SafeLink is a brand, that information is consolidated into their financial statements. I was happy with the financial statements. I had to dig into the 10K a bit, but I was able to see Tracfone all throughout there, and I know that they are financially competent. Um, I just asked for some bonus information, and I feel like they did a great job in providing everything that I asked them.
Okay. One of the answers, again, sticking to page 8 of your supplemental testimony. So this is Staff Exhibit 2.
Sure.
Beyond the financial competency piece, you also said that staff is asking for the petitioner to provide a narrative that shows the SafeLink brand is run efficiently and effectively. You feel that was satisfied as well through the evidence that is in the record?
I do.
Okay. Okay. So I had a few questions for you. The reason for the bench request was to get most of those out of the way so that we wouldn't take as long today.
Okay.
So let me, I guess, just start with your overall staff's overall position in this case.
Sure.
Mr. O'Rourke asked if staff is satisfied that the requirements that the petitioner has satisfied all of the legal requirements. You addressed this to an extent in Exhibit 1, your direct testimony at the bottom of page 3. What are staff's recommendations and conclusions? At this juncture, my understanding is that staff is recommending that the petition be granted and that the service territory be expanded as requested by Verizon Value. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Hearing Examiner, that is correct.
Okay. Let me ask you about this issue that is coming up and we're trying to figure it out about these 2 additional zip codes. Was that something you looked into? Are you Are you familiar with what zip codes they may be referring to? Have you seen it come up in other cases?
I am not, to be honest. I thought I did. I misunderstood, and I basically just assumed those were Mescalero Apache, those zip codes. And so no, that I do believe we need to look further into that to resolve that issue. But no, that's not something that I did notice.
Okay.
And I'm glad we caught it during this testimony.
Okay. Um, Let me ask you about something that came up on Friday. It's been referred to before, this letter that came in from President Nygren of Navajo Nation. As I think we've discussed before, I asked Mr. Avila about it. I do think it's potentially, I don't know how significant, but it is potentially of some significance. What is your take on that letter, and what should the commission make of it?
So I've only had the pleasure of working a couple of Lifeline cases, but I can tell you that's a big deal. Getting that letter, Navajo Nation is a particular area of concern. It's a big part of New Mexico that's underserved, and I think that letter is extremely valuable because it shows that the Verizon Value is making an effort with their outreach, and I think it's having an impact. From staff's perspective, it seems to be having an impact.
Okay. One of the issues that comes up when in these ETC cases, when we're dealing with determining if it's in the public interest, I talked about this briefly with Mr. Avila, is sort of the unique advantages and unique disadvantages of the petitioner's service offering. Let me ask you first about the answer that Mr. Avila gave in his testimony and then also live today. What does staff see as the unique advantages of petitioner's service offering in your experience?
Sure. I'd like to refer to what Mr. Avila said today because I'd like to state that staff is in complete agreement with that. That is the main advantage from staff's perspective was looking at comparable um, programs. So I was looking at, for example, the Cellular One service by SBI. They're the closest comparable service when you look at the free Lifeline services. Um, Verizon Value offers double the amount of data, and then, like they said, for tribal lands, it's 40 gigabytes data, which I don't believe I mentioned in my testimony, and I think that's very important to state right now that I think that's a huge advantage. I'm not aware of any other providers that are offering that amount of data with their free Lifeline plans. So to staff, that's a huge advantage because I think it's going to appeal to a lot of customers.
Okay. And then let me ask you about the other half of the equation. Are there any, in staff's view, are there any unique disadvantages of petitioner's service offering that the commission should consider as part of this public interest analysis?
No, not that I'm aware of, not that staff was aware of.
Okay. Um, Let me ask you about some of the information in your supplemental testimony.
Sure.
I asked you about the track record, what staff sees as the track record of the petitioner, because I do think that that's important
Right.
information to have for the commission to have when it considers these cases. Let me just ask you first, before I ask about some of what you testified to as far as what their track record was. On page 6 of your supplemental testimony, this is staff exhibit 2. Page 6, lines 4 and 5, you say, staff believes continued scrutiny and evaluation of Verizon Value's operational and compliance record as an ETC is warranted. That, I guess my question to that is, in the context of this proceeding, what does that answer mean? Are you saying that the commission needs more information before granting this petition as far as their compliance record? Or are you saying that maybe going forward, there should be an eye kept on Verizon Value as an ETC, I guess similar to what staff would keep an eye on other ETCs as well? Can you explain to me what that answer meant?
Sure, yeah, I would like to clarify that because it could be misunderstood. What I did mean by that is in the same sense that it's important to oversee all of our ETC lifeline providers. I wasn't suggesting that in this case we need to really scrutinize certain things. I just think it's important that all the information is available to the commission and that we have access to it and that we're keeping an eye on all of our lifeline providers and that's what I was trying to get across there with that statement.
Okay. And let me just ask you then, I guess about uh, these ETC designations once they are issued. One of the questions I asked Mr. Avila, I guess, and my question was nationwide, but
Mhm.
I asked him about, whether there had been any instances where Verizon Value, formerly Tracfone, had had their ETC designation revoked or suspended, anything like that. He said no, which is helpful information. Um, and I'm just curious, in New Mexico, has the does the Bureau have a process through which it would bring an action like that? Let's say you became aware of some major compliance issues. What would that look like from the Telecommunications Bureau side once the designation has already been granted?
Right. I think that's a great question, a really important question. And I think it's something that staff is honestly in the process of continually working on. Because right now, there's not a lot of actions that we can take. We have to kind of usually, we have complaints come in and things like that, and we try to get them resolved. But I have not been around for an instance where we've seen an ETC that we need to step in and say, hey, like things are really out of control here. I've never seen that in my time here yet. So I'm just not really sure.
Okay. Do you receive complaints about ETCs that are already designated?
Not often, but
Not
sometimes.
not often.
Not often.
Okay. Have you received any about Tracfone?
Since I've been with the commission, no.
Okay, great. Um, Let me ask you about so on this is again, I think on page 6.
Okay,
Page 6 and 7.
sure.
You're asked this question about their track record in New Mexico.
Hmm.
And your answer, I have to say, your answer took me a little bit by surprise. This is not the answer I was expecting. But can you explain to me, when I reviewed this summary of Verizon Value petition proceedings in 1731-UT, um, uh, candidly, it didn't look terribly concerning to me,
Hmm.
um, especially given that the hearing examiner recommended that the case be dismissed without prejudice.
Right.
Um, Now, since then, I think we have a Supreme Court decision that says that it has to be without prejudice, but that's neither here nor there. Are you concerned about their track record in New Mexico, I guess is the question, and if so, why?
I am not, but I'm glad you gave me the opportunity to clarify this question, this answer to that question, because um, I guess I was a little confused about what exactly what you were looking for. So, in my perspective was the question asked since 2012, what is the perspective? And I'm really only familiar with this case, 1731. And yeah, there's nothing really too concerning there, but I just wanted to provide the commission with my knowledge of Tracfone since that time. But I'm not trying to state that as a negative evidence.
Okay. Well, let me, I guess, then sort of rephrase and sort of sharpen the question, just so that I have the answer that I need in terms of writing the recommended decision. From your knowledge of Verizon Value, formerly Tracfone's record in New Mexico, looking to their record in New Mexico, is there anything that should give the commission pause before granting this petition?
No, from staff's perspective, they've been compliant in their time in New Mexico and looks good.
Okay. All right, that's helpful. And I'm struggling to find it, but I believe in your direct testimony or in your rebuttal testimony, here it is on page 5 and 6. I asked you the sort of the same question about their track record nationally,
Oh, right.
and talked a little bit about their background here. A couple of items came up, I think, consent decrees.
Mhm.
And I asked Mr. Avila earlier, essentially about their track record and about their compliance procedures that they have in place to handle these types of issues. Is staff comfortable with Verizon Value's track record nationally? And it's the same question. Is there anything, should the commission be concerned about this expansion of the service territory, given that track record?
Staff is not concerned with the track record. From staff's perspective, the company has made efforts to better itself financially, operationally, in every way, in every sense. And staff has no concern about ETC designation in New Mexico for this company.
Okay. All right. And so then I guess that just takes us back to this one issue about these 2 zip codes. And I don't know if we're going to end up getting additional information from the company today or not, but let's phrase it this way. If you look at your supplemental testimony, so this is exhibit 2, you attach an exhibit to that that essentially is a overview at my request of the other ETCs designated statewide. And there's quite a number on here. I think you provided an exact number. I don't know if it was 40 something.
Yeah.
This issue of multiple zip codes for those that are designated statewide, has this issue, to your knowledge, come up before?
Not this particular issue, no.
Okay.
I mean, there's been cases where, of course, zip codes are left out because they're wilderness areas or whatever reason. But this particular situation, no.
Okay. All right. That sounds good. I don't believe I have any further questions for you, Mr. Tolson. I appreciate your testimony today. Mr. Rossi, any questions on redirect, sir?
No questions on redirect. Thank you.
Okay. And Mr. O'Rourke, any questions prompted by what I asked Mr. Tolson?
No, Mr. Hearing Examiner.
Okay. Thank you. With that, Mr. Tolson, again, I appreciate your testimony today, and I believe you can be excused.
Thank you, Mr. Hearing Examiner.
Thank you. So Mr. O'Rourke, that brings us back to you, potentially Mr. Avila. Where do we stand about these 2 zip codes? Should we recall him? Should we treat this as a bench request issue? How do you want to handle this?
Well, let me tell you the information that I've got, and it has come to me, Mr. Hearing Examiner, because we didn't want to communicate with the witness during this time. But our best information is that the 2 areas correspond to the blacked out areas on the zip code map. There are 2 areas that just don't have zip codes, and they're blacked out. And so there are no people, no settlements, and as far as we can tell, no assigned zip codes. The southern one is White Sands, which may also incorporate the San Andres National Wildlife Refuge. Uh, and I guess in White Sands, there's the White Sands Missile Range. And then the other area is Mount Taylor. So it appears unlikely that either of those areas ever will be inhabited. So honestly, we're not that concerned about them in terms of ETC status. I think if it were up to us, we'd include them because you never know. But if it's an issue, we don't have a great deal of heartburn with them being excluded from our ETC service area.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. You say they're blacked out. What map are we talking about? Because I'm looking at exhibit 8, and the only thing I see blacked out there is, it looks like, is the Mescalero Apache.
And I apologize. I was referring to an email that a Tracfone lawyer sent me. And we had looked at a map where there were a couple of black spaces, and we're asking ourselves, what are those? And in the map you have, they're shown in red because we want to cover, that's our proposed service area. If you'd like a map that shows the 2 blacked out areas, we can certainly provide those to you as a supplemental exhibit.
You're saying Mount Taylor has an entire zip code just dedicated to Mount Taylor?
That I don't know.
Okay. Well, why don't we do this? Let me mull over what information I need, and then I'll probably issue a bench request. And if you can just have some testimony submitted, I'm assuming staff is not going to object to any clarification on this. You can file it, and then I can at least take it. I mean, that information that you're providing makes sense in terms of White Sands and Mount Taylor. I guess I'm surprised that Mount Taylor has a zip code unto itself if there's nobody who lives there. But if you can answer that through testimony and just provide clarification, that at least will provide me with a starting point.
We'll do, Mr. Herring Examiner, and just to be clear, as best we can tell, it does not have a zip code associated with it.
Yeah.
Those 2 areas are without zips, and so we can clarify that in the supplemental testimony.
Yes, please. Yeah, I mean, what is creating the question for me in my head is just that in Mr. Avila's direct testimony talks about these 2 zip codes, and so if that's the case, that Mount Taylor simply doesn't have a zip code, then you can provide that clarity. If they're not a designated zip code, I don't see that there would be a problem with statewide designation at that point, because effectively it would simply be wilderness area. On the other hand, if it does have a designated zip code, then I guess I have more of a question. But that's what you can flesh out in that bench request response. But I'll issue this has come up before. I'll issue a written bench request just so that there's clarity as far as what I need. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Rossi, does that sound acceptable to you, sir?
It does. I'm not surprised about White Sands, and it runs into that interesting question of what do you do about a wilderness area? We can't really say you must build in a wilderness area. So.
Right. And I mean, those wilderness areas, assuming that is what we're dealing with, those wilderness areas are wilderness for the purposes not just of Verizon Value, but the other ETCs that are designated statewide. And so obviously, if the commission has previously granted ETC designation statewide to other entities and hasn't carved those out, then, I mean, that's a pretty clear indication to me as far as what needs to happen here. But I just want the record to be clear about that. So we'll follow up with a bench request about that. Okay, so I believe that concludes the evidentiary portion of the hearing. Mr. Rossi, Mr. O'Rourke, I'm assuming there's no further exhibits from either party.
It's
Nothing
correct for
from staff.
value.
Sorry.
Okay, so let me a couple of preliminary, I guess, final items to talk about, and I'll get to briefing in a minute. One of the questions that I had, and this has come up, I think I asked questions to Mr. Avila and Mr. Tolleson about this letter that I received, that the commission received from President Nygren. It's right now, the status of that is effectively, I think, a public comment. And because they're not a party. Navajo Nation is not a party to this. I feel that there may be a pretty good reason to admit that into evidence, either as a Tracfone exhibit or potentially as a commission exhibit. Mr. O'Rourke, if I asked the company to try to admit that into evidence, would you object to that, sir?
Uh, uh, Verizon Value moves that the letter from the Navajo Nation president filed on May 2nd, 2025, be admitted as it's called Tracfone Exhibit 12.
Mr. Rossi, any objection to that?
As the notice went out to the Navajo Nation, and now we do have a response from them, I think moving to admitted via Tracfone is or through the petition is reasonable, so no objection.
Okay, thank you. So I will admit that as Tracfone / Verizon Value Exhibit 12. Mr. O'Rourke, if you could maybe take that letter, mark it as Exhibit 12, and then upload it to Dropbox, that would be helpful. That's an unusual procedure that we've just followed. I do feel that there's a certain amount of respect that should follow a letter like that from the president of Navajo Nation. So I appreciate both parties getting that into evidence so that the commission can take a look at that. Let's see. So that takes care of that. Let me address the confidentiality issues. So there's 2 requests for confidentiality that we have. There's an older one and then there's a newer one. So staff has a certain amount of time under the protective order to file a response to the request for confidential treatment. And I don't remember exactly how many days that is. It'll either be this week or next week that deadline falls. So I assume Mr. Rossi will file that with respect to the confidentiality request that was filed on Friday. And so we can just follow that procedure that's outlined there. I have mulled over the confidentiality, the older confidentiality request over the weekend. And I've done a little bit of research. I'm not prepared today to rule on it. What I would like to do with that, I think, is I'll give both parties the opportunity, if you do want to brief anything in addition to that, you can do that as part of the post-hearing briefing. You can essentially wrap that up into that if you so choose. That's not a requirement. It's an opportunity. And then I'll rule on that. One of the aspects I'm looking at now is, those particular documents were not admitted into evidence today. And so how that will impact my ruling is something that I'm going to be considering, and whether that takes care of a lot of that issue or if it doesn't, that's something I'm going to look at. So my request, especially to staff on the issue of the settlement agreements, which I think is really the only sort of unresolved issue there, would be, you should try to brief that in post-hearing briefing if you don't mind. So as far as post-hearing briefing goes, subjects other than that particular confidentiality issue, I leave it to the parties to decide how to handle that. I don't have any particularly burning questions at this point as far as what the law is or what the law requires. I would encourage both parties to, in your post-hearing briefing, to essentially identify as clearly and succinctly as you can what those requirements are that Verizon Value / Tracfone needed to satisfy through the evidence, as well as what evidence in the record satisfies those requirements. That would be helpful. But I don't think that there's a particular requirement at this point that I have major concerns about. As far as deadlines go, the default deadlines are 20 days after the filing of the transcript for initial briefs and another 13 days after that for response briefs. Are the parties comfortable with those deadlines? Do you need more time? Do you need less time? I'll sort of leave that question up to you. I guess I'll direct this to Mr. O'Rourke to start.
Verizon Value is comfortable with those deadlines.
Okay. And Mr. Rossi, you comfortable with the default deadlines as well?
Yes, the defaults are sufficient. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So then that's what we'll do. I will try to remember to put out an order after the transcript is filed, just clarifying what those deadlines are as far as the specific dates. Otherwise, just keep in mind the default deadlines apply. So 20 days after the filing of the transcript for that initial brief. And I believe that's all of the items that I needed to address while we're on the record today. I'll give both parties an opportunity while we're here to address anything else. Mr. O'Rourke, is there anything from the company's perspective, any closing items that we should address before we wrap up?
The only thing I'll note, Mr. Hearing Examiner, I know that we've briefed the newer confidentiality claim and staff will. But I would like to flag that this one is particularly sensitive for the company.
Okay.
Just because of the nature of the data and the fact, obviously it's not public, but it would be of great interest, not only to competitors, but perhaps to Wall Street folks. And so that's one that we're concerned about.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. I mean, obviously nothing prohibits you, and, you know, you're certainly able to, you know, touch base with Mr. Rossi before he files his response and provide him any additional information you see fit to him. I leave that to the two parties to sort of work together collaboratively on that, but I appreciate the heads up, and I expect that that order will be issued probably before I issue the recommended decision. So assuming that Mr. Rossi files his response whenever that deadline is, I'd have to look it up. I don't expect that that issue will take me a great deal of time in order to get out an order. Anything further from Verizon Value while we're on the record today, Mr. O'Rourke?
No, Mr. Hearing Examiner.
Okay. Mr. Rossi, anything from staff?
The deadline is 7 days, so I'll have it filed by Thursday. And nothing further.
Okay. Sounds good. Guess that's right. Okay. So with that, I think we all have an understanding of what's going to happen going forward. I will issue a the written bench request to Tracfone about Verizon Value about this. To zip codes, non-zip codes issue either tomorrow or certainly by the end of the week. And so you'll have an opportunity to address that. Once the transcript is filed, you will then have 20 days to file your initial briefs. Again, to the extent that you know, you are able to brief that previous confidentiality request, please do that. And then obviously 13 days from there for rebuttal. At that point, it'll be on me to prepare a recommended decision, and then it'll go to the commission for a final decision. So with that, I extend my thanks to the parties for your professionalism today and your participation during the hearing today. And with that, this hearing is adjourned and we are off the record. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Hearing Examiner.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And thank you, Ms. Gonzalez. Appreciate your help today.
Welcome. Alrighty. Bye-bye.